Hey guys, my name is Ibis Fernandez, and in this tutorial, I'm going to be introducing you to masking. And masking is basically a procedure that's used to basically hide certain things from being displayed on the screen, even though they are there. It's very useful when you want to create like some kind of spotlight effect, or you simply want to hide certain things within another shape. So this particular example, I'm going to be demonstrating it in Adobe Flash or Adobe Animate, which is called now. And it's very useful for those of you creating things for Crazy Talk Animator, which is pretty much the main way that you create the eyeballs for the characters in Crazy Talk, or at least the G2 characters anyways. So let me go ahead and get started with this so we can try to keep this video nice and short. I'm first going to demonstrate the quick way of just making it so you can see what it is and what it does in action. So here I am. I'm creating a nice little circle shape right there. I'm going to create a new layer in Flash, and I'm going to just freehand draw just any other random shape. Let's draw a little flower. Okay, let's go ahead and fill it in with whatever random color we can come up with. And all right, that takes care of that. So it doesn't really matter what you do with these shapes, whether you convert them to symbols or not, as long as they're there. Ideally, you want to put the objects that you're going to mask out in their own layers. So basically, I'm going to take this flower, which is on layer 2. I'm going to rename it so you guys can just kind of see it. Doesn't really matter. You don't have to name these layers. The bottom one is the one that contains that circular shape. So I'm just going to move it to the top. I'm going to call this circle. Okay, so basically I have one layer on top of another, right? And the top layer, I have a circle. So I'm going to right click on that circle layer and select the mask option. And notice what happens. The entire circle becomes invisible, and then only the part of that flower that's within the circle is visible. So that's basically, it's become mask. So I'm going to unlock these two layers. As I unlock them, I'm able to see where these elements are. I'm going to move this over here, and then I'm going to lock them again. Once I lock them, the layer, the mask layer becomes active. So only the region within that circle is what becomes active. Now, let's start talking about how can this be useful. Obviously, for creating eyeballs, I'm just going to draw some new layers here, and I'm going to do it from scratch. That would be the simplest route. Here is a pupil. Just pretend it's a pupil. I'm going to create, turn it into a symbol, and then I'm going to draw an eyeball. Maybe put a little bit of an eyelash there around it. You know, the object of this is not to draw perfectly right now. It's just to show you the technique. So basically, I have this shape, which is basically the base of my eye. I'm gonna put it right there. This pupil, I'm going to create a new layer and paste it. Well, I'm gonna cut it, and then I'm gonna take it on the second layer, paste it in place. I'm gonna place it right there. All right. So now I'm going to take, like, your natural instinct is to want to be able to do this whole thing. So I'm just going to take this white portion, okay? I'm not going to take the eyelash. I'm going to take that white portion. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to place it on a third layer, paste in place. That way, that white shape is exactly on top of the bottom white shape, okay? So we have 3 layers now. If I hide the top two layers, you can see the image base at the bottom. But if I display everything, okay, I can hide the top, hide the middle, which is that pupil, and hide the bottom, which is the image base. So let's take a look at what happens when I mask out. I take that white portion, I use that to be my mask, and it's gonna mask out the layer that's immediately below it, right? So it's gonna mask out the pupil. Boom. So basically that white shape, which is our mask, is masking out the pupil. So that pupil is not going to display anywhere outside of that shape. Now, of course, because that layer below is it's just sitting there exactly where the top mask is, we can see the bottom stuff in there, right? So I can move it, but the top part doesn't move with it. So when you're going to do stuff like that, you just kind of layer it and just kind of, you know, place it exactly where you want it. Now, if you're animating in Flash, of course, you can animate right within these areas. So I'm just going to take this eyeball. I'm going to animate it so that it moves. Let's see here. It's going to start there. It's also going to end there, but somewhere in the middle, okay, somewhere in the middle, I am going to make it go over here. We're going to select this and turn it into an animation by tweening it, create a classic tween. So we can see that the eyeball just moves like that, right? And I'm just going to put in a quick little loop so you guys can just kind of see it in action when it plays. So basically that pupil is just moving left to right, left to right. It's going underneath that mask, but on top of the image layer. So we're going to mask out that pupil again by locking it together. And notice what happens when I hit play. Again, only the regions within the mask is what's being displayed. And since the object that's being masked is that eyeball, that pupil, that is, you know, that's what shows within that region. And of course, we have that other layer underneath, which, you know, if it wasn't there, this is basically what you would see. But since it's there, we're able to see the eyelash below it. Okay, so hopefully that starts giving you some ideas on how to work with that. And that is how you create eyeballs for your characters in Crazy Talk Animator. If you just need to create a new set of eyes and, you know, you just create them like this, dump them in there, they'll work. They'll work as eyeball sprites. Let's see here. So let's go ahead and create a new file here. And I'm going to show you another way that you can use masks to, you know, to kind of help you with what you're doing. So let's say you're building an upper arm or lower part. Let's say you're building like a military character. And let's see here. And this is the upper arm of your character. Oops, let me draw with something other than white. So this is the upper arm of your character. And you want this to have like some kind of camouflage look to it. Now I could go in there and actually do this, but you also want to optimize your usage of vectors and shapes and things like that. You want to use the minimum possible points in your artwork so that it animates faster, it bogs down the processor much less, and you're able to cram more artwork in one project as opposed to a complicated piece of artwork that uses a lot of vector points, and it causes your system to stall. You really have to have like a really high-end machine if you're going to be doing that. But if you optimize everything from the start, it's going to be great. So here's my upper arm of our soldier, let's say, and I'm just going to kind of fill it in some kind of a greenish color, or maybe more of like a desert-ish color. Give it an outline. And on top of this surface, I'm going to basically I'm going to basically draw a pattern, you know, like the camouflage pattern. And I'm basically just going to make it a little bit darker than this, just to have a quick way of getting there. So on this layer, I'm just going to draw a simple shape. Okay, easy enough. I'm going to go ahead and check the shape for complexity. So it still uses quite a bit of vectors that we don't need. We can still make that shape without that many vectors. I'm just going to run a quick optimization pass on it. Modify, shape, optimize. Let's see how much we can get away with before it gets, see, I did all the way to 100. It didn't distort the shape at all. It gave me a 52% reduction. Let's see what that looks like. Much cleaner. You can see there that there's a lot less shape. Only the minimal number of points that are required to create that shape are being placed there. And while I'm at it, I might as well do that with that bottom symbol. Modify shape. You don't have to do this. This is something that I highly recommend with all of your vector artwork, because the more optimized your vector artwork is, the faster, the better it's going to perform on any system. Vector artwork has to be rendered in real time, frame by frame, because it's not real art. It's mathematical equations that the computer has to calculate and draw what that mathematics is saying. So, I mean, what you're seeing here is not actual art. It's just a series of mathematical calculations. So the least amount of calculations the processor has to do, the faster it's going to stay with the frame rate to render that item. So I'm going to take this top shape here, convert it to a symbol. I'm just going to call it blob. And I'm going to basically take this symbol. I'm going to duplicate it a couple times. Okay, it's the same exact symbol. Okay, I'm just basically duplicating it. So I'm not really adding more weight to this file. It's the same exact weight as it was 2 instances ago. So I'm basically still have 2 shapes in this project. I don't have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have that, and of course for variety I can do little things like this, maybe twist around, do things like that, just to, you know, keep it from being obvious that it's the same shape. Now on top of that, I'm going to take this full bottom portion, copy, and not just the inside. You can do the inside only if you want to keep the edge, right? You want the bottom part to show. So let's see let's see how it looks like both ways. We're gonna try it first with the entire shape, paste in place, and then we're gonna mask out the bottom section. Boom. So you have an upper arm of a soldier's uniform that has been perfectly masked out. Okay. Now let's take a look at how it would have looked like if we would have had that that outline. Of course, this outline is the same color as our shape here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to I'm going to hide this for now, and I'm going to go in here, and I am going to change the color of that outline to make it quite a bit darker. That way we can see a distinction. So I'm going to go back to the top. Since I already got rid of that outline, I only have the inside of it. You can see here, I only have the inside of that, and the bottom outline is being displayed based on whatever's underneath. So let's take a look at what it looks like when we mask it out. So that outline is being displayed. The mask is only being masked out within the base color, so we can still see the outline around that, you know, that upper arm. Okay, so this is and of course we've been working directly on the base scene. All right, so this will be useful if you're doing something that you're just making a quick prop and you want to mask out certain things and you drop them into Crazy Talk. If this was an actual body part of a character, basically we will be embedding these masks inside of a symbol itself. So let's see what that looks like. I'm just gonna move, you know what, I'm just gonna take this whole thing, I'm just gonna do everything from scratch, you know. I'm not gonna I don't want to skip any steps and confuse people. So I am going to, let's say I'm just drawing a body part. Okay. I like to always optimize my artwork whenever possible. Was a little bit of destruction there. I'm not gonna worry too much about it. I can always like fix it. Smoothing out that section a bit. There we go. So if we actually look at the vectors, see how it's fairly clean, not too bad. All right, so I'm going to do the same procedure. I'm going to draw, oops. I'm going to draw a camouflage shape. On a separate layer. No, I'm not going to do it on a separate layer yet. I'm going to take this, I'm going to convert that into a symbol. I'll put that little pivot point for that one up there. That way it makes it easier for me to just go like this and just kind of move it in place. I don't like that there. All right. So basically we have an upper arm symbol, right, for our character. Now inside this symbol, if I double click to go to edit in place mode, in there, that's when I want to add my new layer. And on that layer, we're gonna draw that shape that we want. Gotta modify, shape, optimize. Okay. Got a nice little random looking shape. Convert that into a symbol so that we don't have to redraw that all the time. We just kind of duplicate it. Okay, so we have that in place, and we're going to take our section that we're going to be using as our mask, and we're going to put that on the top layer. Create a new layer and then paste in place, and then right click, select mask, boom. So we have it nice and masked. It's a nice little body part. If we go outside, it's an independent symbol. It'll import just fine into Crazy Talk. If we duplicate it, now we have a lower arm. We reduced our workload right there. Okay. Maybe we want to tweak this bottom shape. Let's see here. So it doesn't have a little outline at the top. Okay, so now we have something that looks like that. So working with masks is actually pretty fun. It's a very convenient way to get a lot of things done that you normally would have to do some extra effort on. Give this a shot. Let me see if I may be forgetting anything else. You know, you can use this masking technique for all sorts of things. A spotlight, you know, imagine that old Batman series where you have Batman and Robin against a wall, and then you have the mask animating itself. Very easy to do stuff like that. I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. I mean, in case you're not grasping the idea, I'm pretty sure you do, because at this point I pretty much covered all the basics behind it. So let's say okay, let's start with our wall. I'm just going to draw some random colored bricks there. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be pretty. It's just the demonstration that's important, right? And on the second layer, I'm going to draw the place where we put our character. So this is our little stick figure character. Now pretend this character is, you know, your character or any object that you want to mask out. We're going to turn this one into a symbol. F6, oops, F8. And I'm going to go to frame 40. I'm going to animate this guy just kind of moving from left to right. Okay, so we have a little animation that looks like this. Okay, so imagine your characters or object or plant or turtle, whatever it is, it's just doing something, you know. And I mean, this could be just like a regular prop. And of course, then you go on top of this, create a mask layer. Let's call this a spotlight. It doesn't matter what color it is. You know, I usually like to use like a bright color or something just to be able to tell it apart. And of course, you know, it doesn't have to be anything, you know, it could be any shape that you want. But I'm going to turn that into a shape because mask layers can also be animated. I'm going to turn that into a symbol. And I'm going to take that symbol. I'm going to start right here. In fact, I'm going to introduce you to something completely new. I'm going to do another tutorial after this on guide layers, but just to kind of spice things up and give you a little teaser, I'm going to create a little guide. All right, and we're going to attach this. I'm not gonna go into too many details on making guide layers, so stick tuned if you want to know how to create guide layers, because those are also very, very useful for making animated props and objects or in scenes in general, especially if you're just going to animate in Flash. So right now I have that, and let's see here. So we have a little guide. We're going to make this sequence a little bit longer so we can get more juice out of it. So we have a little sequence that looks like this right now. You know, that little circle shape just kind of follows that guide. And when we turn on the mask, we turn that second layer into a mask. See if we can do that. I might not be able to do that together. Let's see here. I think I have to do it inside. Yeah, I think that procedure has changed. Let's turn this into its own symbol first. We're gonna take Control X. Gonna go in here. We're gonna do this. Paste in place. Oops. Well, I'll just draw it again. Just going to turn that into its own independent. Some of the procedures have changed in the last few versions of Flash, so I believe that this is the more correct way of doing it. So first I'm going to turn that into another symbol. F6 to make that there. We move it to the end point. We animate it. So let's see here. created a guide and we attach it to the guide, and now we have that. Now we go outside, and we don't have to animate this top one because the internals is already animated. So we're going to clear that frame out. So basically we have something that looks like that. If we play, since this is a movie clip, it doesn't play. I can convert it into a graphic symbol. It doesn't have to be, because of course, like I'm gonna hit Control Enter. You're still gonna see it animated because it's a movie clip symbol. But if you want to see it within the authoring environment, then you're gonna need to turn that into a graphic symbol. Where's the library? Which is selected here. Properties, where are you? There you go. We just turned it into a graphic symbol. We go to the properties panel. We make sure it's being interpreted as a graphic symbol. And of course, once it's a graphic symbol, here it is. I didn't do it correctly. Once it's a graphic symbol, you can see it animated within the stage. So if you need to be able to see it within the stage, then just turn it into a graphic symbol. You'll be able to see the internal frames playing because they get locked in with the main timeline. Otherwise, just leave it as a movie clip symbol. Crazy Talk Animator will recognize it just fine. But okay, so we have an animated mask, basically. We're going to turn it into a mask. And ooh, what happened to that guy? Well, that guy right now, he's standing in a region that's outside of that circle. So let's see what this looks like when we play it. Oh, there you go. So we can see that. So to further sell this effect, what we're going to do is I'm going to duplicate. I'm going to mask out. I'm going to add that brick to the mask region as well. So now we have this. Looks a lot better, huh? Because now we can see the bricks with the thing, but now the rest of it is gone. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take this, copy it. I'm going to paste it in place. So now basically I have what's being masked out, which looks like that. And if I turn on the bottom layer, I can see what's underneath it. And yeah, we could probably settle and live with that. It doesn't quite look right, does it? I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna tweak the bottom layer's colors a little bit. I'm gonna leave the top, the second layer. I'm gonna leave this layer. Let's see here. I'm gonna leave this layer exactly this color. And I'm going to turn the other ones a little bit darker. So let's see here. I'm going to take that color, reduce the darkness. Oh, I can't see because I'm blocking it. So I had that other one turned on. So and I'm going to take this other color. I'm going to darken that. Maybe a little bit darker. And you know what? I don't like these outlines. Let's get rid of these outlines real quick. I'm going to do the same thing on this one. I'm going to select them and get rid of the outlines. So I have that. The top layer that's being masked out is going to stay the bright orange and green color. The bottom layer is a darker orange, a much darker greener, much more muted tones. So when we view everything together, we have something that looks like this. The area right here is being masked out on top of the area that's kind of dark. So we end up with something that looks like this. There you go. The spotlight catches your villain. So there's all sorts of things you guys can do with masks. They are very useful. I mean, we're only scratching the surface, but for the time being, I hope you guys learned something. I hope you guys find a good use for this. And if you've learned something from this, if you find it useful, please like, share it, subscribe to it. If you want to be notified whenever I go live, hit the little bell icon. I like to do live videos a lot. And if you have any kind of requests, just let me know, guys. Any kind of tutorial, any kind of questions that you might have, let me know. I'll take care of you guys. I'll post the videos as soon as I'm able to, and I'll answer all your questions. So leave your comments and keep in touch.